So it is that time of the month where we offer the tips for the gardener, and we're here with Jan McNeil. And so Jan, what is it that we should be thinking about now?
Why something isn't necessarily doing very well. I mean, this is supposed to be a hot summer where a lot of plants should thrive.
Should have just exploded.
With enough water. And so
It's
sometimes
true.
you think it's not enough water, it's not enough fertilizer. Last year we talked about the fact that I had put the tailings from making cider, all the peels and the seeds and stuff in these raised beds.
The apple cider.
I'll just compost it. Well, then I had this nightmare of apple seedlings.
I remember that.
Well, now this is the third year, and finally I've got the acidity where it's supposed to be, back with some lime and things like that. But I planted potatoes in February, and they should be up and still going now, but they're done. They were done early.
Really?
So I dug the last of the potatoes yesterday.
Well, would that be because of heat, you thought then?
Well,
maybe?
that's what I thought, or lack of water or whatever. But when I went to dig up the potatoes,
oh my.
here's the roots from the little seedlings from the apples.
Oh my! So they were just taking all the water,
everything,
oxygen,
all
nutrition?
the nutrients, everything. We did have potatoes, but nothing like what you should.
Not
have.
what you should have had with that if this wasn't involved.
No.
So really, sometimes you don't know until you do a little.
What's
digging.
underneath?
Yeah.
Right. It could be a mole run. It could be a mouse run, where you'd fertilize or you'd water, and then everything would run right down the run and wouldn't even get to the roots.
It wouldn't spread out to the soil. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And then what about a lot of people, I think, not only do they think of water as the only problem, but they think fertilizer. But you have some information about fertilizing hanging baskets and raised beds.
Right. Well, if things aren't doing well, if they're not blooming or if they're not greening up or whatever, they look like they need something, you need to fertilize. You need to make sure that if you're growing a leafy vegetable, that you have more nitrogen in your numbers, like NPK, nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus.
Yeah.
So like lettuce would take more nitrogen than something that would bloom that you'd get fruit from. And then with the baskets, you just need to water your containers, your baskets first, get them wet, and then fertilize so that the fertilizer stays in it and doesn't run out the bottom because it's dry.
Yeah, because if you're watering a couple times a day in hot heat, you're just going to wash that stuff out. It makes perfect sense.
The other thing we talked about was people that hang their laundry outside.
Yes.
That if you might want to, just like we talked about shaking out the bouquet of flowers, you might want to shake out the laundry a little bit in case you've got some unwanted vagabonds coming in the house.
The producer of the show, actually, they had some laundry out, brought it in, and there was a stink bug in a sleeve that had just made himself at home.
Sure, of course. So
so just a quick shake.
Just be observant, see what's going on, see what happens with other people's gardens, what the exposures are, if you need fertilizer or not,
and what about planting for fall? There's a tip for that, isn't
there?
There
is. Actually, I've got it written down, so it's better for me to do this. There's a whole list on the OSU website of things like arugula, beans, broccoli, carrots, etc. Things that you could plant in the fall. Yeah. But what you do is figure out when your last frost date is, and then back up to how many days it takes for these to mature. So from, let's say our last frost date is October 31st, and it takes 30 days, you just back up to September or to even July now, and you've got maybe 2 batches of 30 days where you could get in a couple of.
There you go. So it just gives you some guidelines on how to plant
to back up. But I realize that in the state, any day could be a frost day in some areas of Oregon. So the formula may not work everywhere. But
it's a guideline.
Right.
Well, there you have it. There's our tips for this month. You can get out there, keep working in the garden, and we'll hopefully even have more great produce with just in a few weeks.
I hope so.